the first element, I think, crucial in emotional growth. Rabbi Zusha and Rabbi Melech, these two men, wandered to another city in their travels, and some Russian guy got upset with them and informed on them that they're thieves. So they were thrown into a dungeon. These two brothers, Rabbi Zusha and Rabbi Melech, they found themselves in a dungeon overnight. In the morning, they find themselves together with many prisoners who are all in the dungeon, everyone lying on the floor. Rabbi Melech in the morning, what does he do in the morning? He davens. So he takes out his talis and tefillin, puts on his talis and tefillin, he's ready to daven in prison. And then his brother sees that he's weeping. So he says, Melech, why are you crying? So Melech says, I'll tell you why you're crying. I'll tell you why I'm crying. He points to the corner. There's a big garbage can. And the garbage can contained human fertilizer. It was prison. So Melech says, I can't daven. Halachically, you're not allowed to daven in a place where there's that type of aroma and that type of garbage can. He says, this is the first day I won't be able to pray to God. So Rabbi Zusha says, so what? Why are you crying? So he says, Rabbi Zusha, what do you mean why I'm crying? Because I can't daven. So Rabbi Zusha says, so what? Why do you have to daven? He says, because I have to connect with the divine energy. He says, but the divine energy at the moment is dictating that you shouldn't daven. So the same God to whom you connect through davening, you connect to him through not davening, because that's his desire at the moment. The real spiritual energy of the moment wants you shouldn't daven. So Rabbi Zusha says, you're right. And he begins laughing. He begins dancing. Once he surrendered his needs, he begins dancing about the fact that now he's connecting to the cosmic energy through not praying. So Rabbi Melech is dancing, Rabbi Zusha also begins dancing. And they begin dancing. The prisoners see two men, weirdos, dancing. Two chassidim dancing. But they liked it. It was cool to dance in prison. So they also started to dance. So the whole cell went out into a wild, ecstatic dance of joy over the fact that this guy couldn't pray because there was a dirty bucket. The guard on the other side of the door hears inmates dancing joyfully. That wasn't something they liked in prison. He comes busting in. He busts open the door, comes running into the cell. He says, why are you guys dancing? We're here. You're supposed to be here to get your spirit crushed and not to soar. But they're just dancing. They're in ecstasy. So he calls over one of the inmates. He says, tell me right now, what is the reason for this dance? So the inmate points to the barrel. He says, what? What are they dancing about? He says, one of the rabbis is dancing because this barrel is here in the room. That's what he told us. So he said, that's the cause of the dance? I'm going to punish you and get rid of it. He takes the barrel and throws it out of the room. And Rabbi Zusha turns to the Melech and says, and now you can daven. So it's only a person who's capable of shoving the kugel down his pocket and sack that can surrender. And even when there's filthy buckets, can connect with the real energy. And thus, I am very thankful to God for giving me the privilege of spending this wonderful Shabbos with this community, where the Talmud says, and I say this in honesty, that one of the sages said, I've learned a lot from my teachers. I have learned much more from my friends. But most of all, I've learned from my students. And I find in most cases, when I go for Shabbatons, I do my show. I have my can do it, not can do it. I have my shtick and my jokes, and sometimes they work better, and sometimes they work worse. But nevertheless, when you get accustomed to do it, it's part of the clothes. It's part of the clothes. Now, once in a while, you have to get your shirt torn open and your pants stripped and emerge and get in touch with what it's really all about. And that's why I want to thank you, Rabbi Kunin, particularly, who, and more than Rabbi Kunin, and everyone whom I encountered during the Shabbos, it was very special. It was very special on a spiritual, beyond ego level. Because we all have souls, but we all have issues and responsibilities and concerns and dilemmas, and it's very easy to get entangled in our own game. We all have our game and our shtick. And here I want to share with you something very moving from the Holy Baal Shem Tov. And everybody knows that Saturday nights we say stories about the Baal Shem Tov. And the Chassidim used to say that doing stories about the Baal Shem Tov is auspicious for wealth. And the Rebbe Maharash once said, wrong. 3 mistakes in this statement. Mistake number 1 is not just stories about the Baal Shem Tov, but stories about any person who is a conduit. Mistake number 2, not only Saturday night, but any night of the week. And mistake number 3, not only auspicious for wealth, it's auspicious for all types of divine blessings. So here's the thing. Someone was just talking to me about Purim, the auspiciousness of Purim. Purim, we open up the Megillah, the scroll. And you know what the first story about Purim is? It's the first story you read in the Megillah, the whole first chapter is this weird story. Achashverosh, the emperor of Persia, gets drunk. He makes a 7-day feast. Gets drunk. Similar to some other leaders who get drunk. And Achashverosh drinks, and when he's very merry...
Excuse me, what that means?
No, in Persian.
I'm kidding.
And when he gets very drunk, he decides... In Persia there's no AA, ladies.
Obviously there's no AA here.
They say there is AA, the problem is that Levi is the president. I have a friend in Crown Heights, not a friend exactly. He's a 90-year-old man. His name is Reb Meir Itkin. And he drinks galore. He doesn't drink 80%. He drinks 180%. And every Shabbos in Shul. And he always goes to the doctor. And his family can't figure it out because officially they tell the doctor you have to tell him not to drink. And the doctor says, of course I always tell him, but he doesn't, and he always listens to the doctors. But in this, he just refuses to listen to the doctor. So once I asked him, Rabbi Meir, how do you get away with this? You listen to your doctors. He said, no, but my doctor drinks together with me. I go in and I offer him my drinks. So Achashverosh gets very, very, very drunk. Very. And he, you like that, yeah? It reminds you of Malibu rabbis. This is the story, it's supposed to be a biblical story. It's supposed to be a holy book, the Bible, right? He offers them, if they want to behold the beauty of his queen Vashti. That was his wife. She was officially a beautiful woman. They say, of course. So he sends a messenger, Vashti, please appear before us. We want to show off your beauty. For some reason, Vashti, the beauty, refuses to appear. He's a drunk king. He gets outraged. And he did not have the alternative of therapy. He did not do it. So he's burning with anger. He summons 7 advisors. He says, what do I do with such a woman? And what do they say? Execute her. Time for a new one. Doesn't listen, death. And he does it. And Vashti is gone. They say Vashti sets a bad precedent for all the women in the country that they don't have to obey their husband's commandments. This is the opening chapter of the Megillah. How romantic, how dramatic, how beautiful. Now, why didn't Vashti appear anyway? And why was he such a jerk to kill her if she didn't appear? I mean, there's a sheer to how much of an ego you have. We did a lot of ego things this Shabbos, so all of us have some egos. Certainly the speaker has an ego, but still, you don't go and take a knife and stab or execute someone for not following your ego. I mean, some decency. I mean, if you're a king, you have to have some self-control. So first of all, why didn't his wife come? And second of all, why did he kill her for it? So the Talmud says, and here again is a cryptic piece of Talmud, Talmud Tractate Megillah, the Bar Mitzvah page 13 says, that Vashti suddenly became a leper. A leprosy extended over all of her body. And Achashverosh offered the constituency of his to behold her beauty. They said only if she comes without any clothes. So Achashverosh said, cool, told Vashti to come without any garments. But Vashti became a leper. So it was pretty humiliating to show up that way. So she refused to come. And he killed her. And now everyone asked the question, why couldn't she tell him that that's the reason? I mean, isn't there any rationality going on here? I mean, that's a good excuse. And what type of jerk is he to kill her, even if she didn't have an excuse? But certainly she was a leper. He didn't want her to appear that way. So we have to right away go to the mystical realm. The Baal Shem Tov says that it's about something else going on here. You know the difference between people that say truth and people that lie? You know the difference? There's a lot of differences. One difference is people that say lies are always covering. Every lie needs a cover-up. And then the cover-up needs a cover-up, and then the cover-up needs a cover-up. Because if not, it gets exposed. I learned this for myself, even in a small little thing, and I learned my lesson. When I saw this in the Baal Shem Tov. I once took a nap in the afternoon. A student of mine phoned me. It was 3 in the afternoon. And he woke me up. And I picked up the phone from the ring. And I sounded like I just woke up. So he said, "Did I wake you?" So I said, "No." That was lie A. He did wake me.
Well, the phone was ringing.
Did I wake you? I said, "No." He says, "Oh, what were you doing?" So what am I going to tell him? I just lied to you? I said, "I was reading." Lie B. He said, "Oh, what were you reading?" So what am I going to say? I just told you 2 lies? So I said, lie C. I don't remember what I said. In 8 seconds, 3 lies. That's the nature of a lie. You got to cover it. Then your cover-up can be exposed, so the next thing has to be covered. People who do, for example, business with lies are always covering the cover-up and then covering the cover-up. And if this guy calls, I once called a guy, and his child comes home back to the phone and he says, "My father told me to tell you that he's not home now." So there are people that live that way. You constantly have to be juggling. You have to be dodging the balls because this guy, you told something today, you told him that you're in Miami or something. Someone just told me that he went for a shiva call. He didn't tell it to me. A friend of his told me that he went for a shiva call. He was a rabbi. I hate to say a story about rabbis, but it's a true story, so I'll tell you the story. And anyway, I see in Malibu you have opinions about rabbis. He's a rabbi of a community. A friend of his related to me the story at a wedding last night. He said he came to a shiva call, and the husband died suddenly. So the rabbi had to tell something to the widow. He said, "Oh, you know, we were supposed to have an appointment last night, your husband and I, because we were very close and so forth." And she says, "You weren't supposed to have an appointment with him. We were supposed to be in Miami for the week." And there went his thing. So it was a humiliating moment for him, and it was ridiculous. But some of us do it in different ways, whether it's in business, whether it's with our spouses. Now, short term, it's much more comfortable to lie, to cover up awkward situations. I learned from that story to go to the other extreme. And a guy phoned me the other day, woke me up. I sometimes take an afternoon nap. And he woke me up and he says, "Oh, did I wake you?" I said, "Yes, you did." He said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." I said, "No big deal. You're allowed to wake me. I'm not committing suicide because you woke me. Don't worry, nothing happened." And everything was fine. "So you woke me, what's the big deal?" And it was clear, fine, next thing. And we sometimes, not to make other people feel awkward, we start covering up. Truth doesn't make people feel awkward in the long term. Short term, you say the real thing, no cover-ups. So people that don't lie, truth doesn't need cover-ups. It stands on its own feet. You don't mind it being exposed. That's why